currently I'm quite involved with professional ethics, both in the accountancy world and also in the financial services sector. It's an interesting path that I've taken to get to where I am. In that my own background, I am an accountant, I'm a chartered accountant, but I didn't start off with it. I wasn't one of these people who wants to be an accountant from a very early age. I started off wanting to be a clinical psychologist, and I did sociology and psychology at university, and studied ethics as part of that in quite a lot of detail. And then things moved on. I went off and became a chartered accountant, and the opportunity came up to become a lecturer in the accountancy world, which I did, and I've stayed with that. And I quite quickly managed to find that I was able to combine my original interests in ethics and social matters with my lectureship in accountancy. So that's what I did. I very quickly, my research interest became involved in, first of all, in environmental accounting, which at the time, we're talking back in the 1980s now, at the time it was very fresh and quite new, and accountants were very resistant to such a thing. They didn't understand what on earth accountancy could have with social or environmental matters. The teaching of social and environmental accounting is quite firmly on the curriculum for almost all accountancy degrees, but it wasn't then. So the other thing that I became involved with was the professional aspects of ethics. I was asked by the Institute of Chartered Accountants, of which I'm a member, to look at how they were teaching ethics to their students. In the old days, when I was a trainee chartered accountant, there was a paper called Professional Organisation and Ethics, which we all had to do. I actually won the prize for that paper when I was doing it. They dropped that paper several years ago, and the idea was that they would spread the teaching of ethics throughout the whole curriculum. So if you were learning about auditing, there'd be a bit of ethics in there. If you were learning about tax, there'd be a bit of ethics in there. The concern was that, in fact, what had happened was that it had just been dropped altogether. And when I looked at it in detail, I found that was, in fact, the case. It had just almost disappeared from the curriculum, or at least it wasn't central in the way that it had been intended. So we changed the curriculum for trainee chartered accountants in Scotland, and now they all have to do, all the students, in order to qualify, they must do a course in professional ethics, and they have to do a set piece of work which they have to pass, and if they don't, then they don't get to qualify. So that was quite a big change there. And not long after, I had a call from the Institute of Bankers, who were keen to look at how they were teaching ethics as well, and to have some sort of input from me into the curriculum for the trainee bankers. So I've been involved now for quite a long time. I can't remember how many years, probably more years than I would care to remember. And I'm now the principal examiner for the professional ethics paper here. As far as the teaching of ethics is concerned, and the examining, which is closely linked, there's some debate as to whether it's possible to teach ethics at all, or whether it's just something that people will either do right or they'll do wrong, and teaching them in the classroom is not going to affect that behaviour, and examining them is not either. I think there's some truth in that, to be honest. I think ultimately people's upbringing and cultural influences will affect, and all sorts of other things as well, will affect whether or not they behave in an ethical way in any given situation or not. I think what we're trying to do here in the Institute of Bankers, and also in the universities and with the Institute of Chartered Accountants, is to try to give people a set of tools to be able to analyse situations as they come up in their future professional lives, where they may encounter difficult situations where there are ethical aspects. And I think the point of what we're doing is to try to equip them, to first of all recognise those situations, I think it's very difficult often for people to recognise that they are being faced with some sort of ethical dilemma, rather than just kind of blindly carry on. So that's the first thing. And then also to equip them with means of thinking about it, and just being kind of mindful of what the correct approach might be in given situations. I mean, obviously we can't cover every situation, and we also can't ensure that they will take the right action. And that's very evident in some of the examinations that I've marked over the years. But for most students, that's not the case. For most students, I think they are thoughtful about it, and this is hopefully, as they go forward, maybe in later life, when they're in a position of quite high power within organisations, and they're faced with quite big ethical dilemmas with big implications for either for themselves or for employees, society as a whole, then they might just think back and be able to use some of what they've learned when they're reaching those decisions.